shall serve me.
Hello everyone, welcome to Bourbon Over Headlines, where your headlines are served neat. Today, this week, as I said in the short, we are continuing with our capital series, city number 2. We are in Topeka, Kansas this week. That's the capital of Kansas. Topeka is a combination of several Indian words that means a good place to dig potatoes. Thought that was Oregon. My bad, Idaho. Thought that was Idaho. Idaho is a potato place, isn't it? Not Kansas, apparently. It is. So, it was established in 1854. In 1861, it became the permanent capital. From 1866, they started building the state capital. And it took 37 years. They started with one wing, they started with another wing, and they built the center part. That's how they did it. It was done with Kansas limestone over 37 years. Also, in 1901, just a little bit of Topeka history here. 1901, most historians and theologians, this is about church, said that modern Pentecostalism started in Topeka. So we have Kansas to blame for that. Alright? Or not blame for it. Depends what you want. And we're just going with a couple stories from the world of Kansas and Topeka in the 1920s. I got several years here. I got just several years in the 20s. First one is women running for governor. So, Mrs. Mary D. W.D. Murray of Kansas City files for declaration. And this is in the Topeka paper, so it's good. So we're going to go from there. She files for governor. Mrs. Murray is the first woman ever to file as a candidate for governor. First one to file for candidate for governor in the state of Kansas. More office work and less oratory. So sit down, get down in the office, work, and don't go around making a bunch of speeches is her thing. Now remember, women didn't get the right to vote, or as it's called, suffrage, until 1920. So this is right after that. This is probably the first election after that in this state, and we have right out of the gate women running for governor. We don't have that many women running for governor in today's world. We have some female governors. We've had them over the course of the last 104 years, but not as many as probably we should. But a lot less women have run, and right here out of the chute, we get suffrage. They're running for governor. That, if you're in Kansas, more power to you. That's impressive. I don't think she won, because I don't remember Kansas ever having a woman governor, especially in the 1920s. So, that's story number 1. Women running for governor. Alright, so what's next on the agenda? Here we go. We have a rash of fires. Council Grove reports 4 fires within 24 hours. This is right outside Council Grove's around Topeka. So, on Christmas too, this is December, this particular article. So, following the 4 fires of incendiary or mysterious origin. Ooh, they don't know how they started. We have a mystery here. An arsonist in town, probably. Maybe a serial one? Maybe individual ones. I don't know. Within 24 hours, Council Grove is searching for it says fire by, but I think they mean firebug. It's just a misprint in the paper from 104 years ago. So even back then, if you didn't proofread it exactly right, you made mistakes. How many people out there have done that? You put a word in that's an actual word, but when you go back and proofread it, you don't catch it. Spell check in today's world is not going to catch it because it's an actual word. So unless you have something that, and maybe this is where AI will help with that, where it'll say this doesn't sound right. First by doesn't sound right in this context, and it'll do a context. This is what we should have, is a context correction. Instead of a spell correction, so a context correction, which will help with stories like this, because if you read it verbatim, it says, for a fire by today. I think they mean firebug. The epidemic It's 4 blazes. I guess in 24 hours has an epidemic. I guess that is an epidemic. Blazes started Wednesday evening at 7:30. They don't say like 7:30 p.m. They say 7:30 o'clock. 7:30. Usually now we say 8 o'clock. It's on the hour. Here they say 7:30 o'clock, which I think is very interesting that they make sure you understand it's o'clock. It's very. I need to look into why we say o'clock. Maybe that's something I need to look into. That might be a Patreon episode. When the fire was discovered on a pile of corn cobs in the basement of the Farmers and Drovers Bank. Someone's burning down a bank. Did they lose their money? Did they were trying to rob the bank? What are we doing with a bank here? Did the bank not approve your loan? I don't know. We don't know what's going on here. It's a bank. Don't want to mess with a bank, because that's burning money, and that's when the Treasury Department comes on you. That's not a good thing. Never is. Let's see what else we got here. The Cobs were piled near a window opening of an alley. So, doing an alley fire here. The fire burned through the floor of the building, damaging furniture and broke a plate glass window. Oh, it broke a window. Less than an hour later, another fire was discovered in a pile of empty ice cream cartons and waste paper in the basement of the Classy Candy Kitchen. Oh, no. Bank's one thing, but now we're burning a candy place? Really? It was ice cream containers? We're taking the ice cream containers, probably from the candy place, and setting them on fire. Who would burn down candy place? Really? Who doesn't love candy? Everybody loves candy, right? Like a candy place. Who doesn't love candy? And you're burning down candy? Did you have a bad childhood or something? Were you so deprived of candy as a kid? That's why you burned down a candy place? Or they tell you didn't have enough money, so the bank denied you money. Then you went to the candy place because they said they couldn't float you. They said they didn't have enough money, so you went to the bank, and so you burned both of them. I don't know. So, see what we got. Thursday night, about 8 o'clock, so a day later. So this is Wednesday evening at 7:30. The next day at 8 o'clock. Fire was found in the basement of a church. So now we have a bank, candy factory, and a church. Man, all the goodness in the world, maybe not the bank, but candy at church? Nothing but good things coming from there. The celluloid keys of an abandoned organ had been set on fire with rags piled upon the organ. So basically they set the keys on fire, put rags on top to make the fire work, just like the paper, just like the corn cobs. Always having something that makes the fire move. A short time afterwards, a pile of rags on the table in the kitchen of the church, of the commercial club rooms, were found ablaze, and the flames spreading from the kitchen burned the partition and damaged the walls and the ceiling of the club rooms, which had been recently. So we have a community club, a church, a candy place, and a bank. Is it the same person? Similar. They're not. They're burning places and spreading. It doesn't look like it's huge fires. The kitchen had been used for several days, thank God, because if there was any grease or anything that had been left over from the day before, I could have caught fire and burnt the whole place down. But there was damage on the walls and the ceilings of the club rooms in the commercial club. So I guess it's a club where you go in, club rooms. They used to have men's clubs where you went in there, you smoked your cigar, you drank your whiskey, read your newspapers, did that. Now, there's a famous fictional club in Sherlock Holmes called the Diogenes Club. Now, it was really strict, where you could go in there, read your paper, but you couldn't speak. If you were just sitting in a chair in a club, wrapped up your cigar, you couldn't say anything. You read your book, you read your paper, but you couldn't speak. There was one room where you could speak in that club, which is weird. But that's old-timey England. I don't know if this is that type of club, but it's just several club rooms, so it might be a club that allows people to come in. There's different rooms. You can play card games, you can play whatever. I don't know. It just says, but it got to the kitchen, and it didn't do too much damage, but it got there. So, sounds like a plan. Someone's setting fires in Topeka, or the Topeka area. The firebug, who knows? Now I would say, if it was just the one place, it would be for insurance. But 24 hours seems like it's the same person. They got an arsonist. I wonder if they ever caught him. I didn't see if they caught the firebug. I checked before and after. I checked after a couple of weeks. I didn't see they caught it, and there were no more fires. So I don't know. Who knows? Now, again, this is in the Topeka paper. Sometimes I'm gonna have articles from other areas of the country because they're in the paper and they strike me as interesting. This one, as I mentioned in my short earlier, someone pulled a double Van Gogh. So if we don't know, Vincent Van Gogh, the famous artist, cut off his ear. Various reasons for that. It doesn't really matter. He cut off his ear. All right. A lot of people say that because the paints they mixed back then were lead-based, it got into his brain and he got a little crazy with the lead. Whatever. Van Gogh was interesting. But a New Jersey plumber was found sitting on the curb with both ears cut off. So a double Van Gogh, both ears were cut off. And was unable to tell how it happened, probably because he was in shock. There's a lot of blood, cut your ears off, a lot of blood. And I love this part. The person writing is speculating. Perhaps the man who he had presented his bill for plugging a leak in a pipe could throw some light in the situation. Let's just casually accuse the person he did a bill for, because that's who the last person he was at. Maybe that person could tell us what happened. Like maybe he cut off his ears? I don't know. Who knows? It's all good. It's all good. But interesting. That's how you react to a bill? A costume wash is cut someone's ears off? I don't know. I've never had that reaction to a bill. I've had bills. I've had plumbing bills that I think were higher than they should be. But my reaction was not to cut someone's ear off. Might be a little pissed. Maybe I try to negotiate it down. But I'm surprised they didn't pull a gun out. It is Jersey. Maybe they had the gun laws they have now in Jersey. I don't know. But cut someone's ears off? Now they can't hear you argue. So now if you're arguing with them about a bill, they can't hear you. So you just made the guy deaf. Interesting. Now he can't find leaks because he can't hear where the leak's at. You just pretty much told him he couldn't do his job anymore. Interesting that you would cut the ears off. It's very odd. Very odd place to cut ears off. Very interesting. I don't know. So over the generations, over the decades, we have dealt. There's been. My next story is kind of. I think it's tongue in cheek. I find it tongue in cheek. It's not, because headline: 4 days in jail show true worth of home and mother to 3 Kansas City runaways. So, Kansas City. There's a Kansas City, Kansas, and a Kansas City, Missouri. They're right next to each other, right across the border. So, in jail, 3 boys have learned that there's no place like home. Well, we're in the Wizard of Oz now. I would say we're not in Kansas anymore, but we actually are in Kansas. And Wizard of Oz came out in 1939, so this is way before that. But I guess no place like home is Kansas. It's just odd that they would do that. Wizard of Oz uses it, and she's from Kansas. And this article from 1922 is saying there's no place like home, and they're in Kansas. And we are in Kansas this time. Interesting setup there. Theodore Nouse. I'm thinking it's Nouse because it's Knouse. Usually the K is silent. Or it's Knouse. I don't know. 13. Joe Heisel, 15. And Yuri Chubb. Yuri? You are right. We don't hear that name much anymore, do we? Yuri Chubb. Say that fast enough, you're a Chubb. I'm sure that kid got bullied. Hey, you're a Chubb! Chubby! Chubby! You're chubby! What if he was a chubby kid? And they just called him you're chubby? I don't know. But say that 3 times fast and see if you don't come out with you're a Chubb. Yuri Chubb left their homes for about 3 weeks and started for the harvest fields. Of course, they rode the rods. Guess they mean the rails again? The rods? I don't know. They rode the rails. Road garage. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming the train or railroads. I think they mean roads or the rails. A Rock Island brakeman found them. So it was trains in a boxcar at McFarland. He sent them home on an eastbound train. We're going eastbound and down. So we got the Wizard of Oz and we got Smokey and the Bandit in one episode. Eastbound and down, and there's no place like home. Interesting. Monday, the three boys decided they would not set out again to see the world and earn some money. They hid in a coal car. They said they would set out. They decided to do it again. So they set out trying to make some money. Now they got sent back home. Now they're hiding out in a coal car. Man, that must be... Hopefully the coal car was empty. Because if it's not empty, it better be full. Because if they're putting coal on top of you, you're breathing coal dust. Hope they didn't wear white, because they're going to be black pretty soon if they did. In the Rock Island yards at Kansas City. Youngest and barefoot boy wailed yesterday afternoon. My mom and papa were always good to me. They gave me all the money I wanted. Why did I go away from them? I'd like to know. So they got put in jail. Basically, it was like, I want my mama and my daddy. The youngest of the three. That sure was a full notion. You don't hear that turn of phrase. A full notion. That was a full notion of ours when we went away. Commented Yuri, the largest of the three. So Yuri, Chubb, is the largest of the three. So he must be the chubby one. This article's full of stuff, isn't it? Yuri, the largest of the three. 15, but he's the largest of the three. His name is Chubb. So Yuri Chubb is the chubby one of the three. We're in Kansas, but there's no place like home. So I guess we can go get Dorothy. Mrs. Denore McGrath, matron of the Flail at the fall, did her best to substitute the mothers of the boys. So basically, the matron where they were held, there was a female there. They put her there. They ate some cookies, she said, interrogating them in their hard luck tale. So basically, they were like, we got caught. We realized the error of our ways. We want to go back home to mommy and daddy. They spent 3 days in jail. And there's no place like home. Oh, I always found this interesting. So, newspapers, magazines, we're in the age of streaming in 2026. So the age of streaming, there's a monthly subscription. There's a yearly subscription for a lot of these things. And newspapers, you always usually got, newspapers had various things. You can get Monday through Friday. Sometimes you can get Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes you can just get the Sunday paper. So here's the subscription rates for the Topeka Plain Dealer, which is where all these, this is where this one came from. The rest, some of these came from the Plain Dealer. Some of these came from the Topeka Daily Journal. Some came from the Topeka Capital Journal. Multiple papers. But the Topeka Plain Dealer, you know, founded in 1899. 1 year, to get the paper for 1 year, is $1.50. $1.50. 6 months is $1 for 3 months. And the advertising rate, so put an ad in the paper. So want to put an ad somewhere, spend some money. $2 per inch. That's not bad. Didn't say per word, it says per. You can fit a lot of words if they're small enough into an inch. If you make it small enough and make people hard to read, you can do it. And you enter this at the U.S. Post Office in Topeka. That's where you put your ad stuff. I just found it interesting. And they're all about the same in small cities like this. Some are big. I had one that I think was $6 for a year because it was just more people and they did more things. So this one I found interesting. So this is the 1920s. So little more, we're starting to get out of the prudish Victorian era across England and the rest of the world. Starting to be more free. The Roaring Twenties, flappers, all that. So this is an article. I think it's an editorial. But it's an article I found. It says spooning parlor is absurd. And, this actually might work in today's world. I think this actually might help with what some say we have an epidemic of loneliness and an epidemic of lack of companionship. So, Young People's Association, fertile ground says, so this person thinks this is a fertile ground for who knows what. Let's find out. Young People's Associations are conceded to be the most fertile ground for courtships, declared Ross Sanderson, Executive Secretary of the Wichita Federation of Churches. It's a church person. This is how we got prohibition. These people who are temperance people, didn't want anything going on, got prohibition and like spooning parlors. It actually said these spooning parlors, I'll come back to it. The spooning parlor, merely for the purposes of permitting the couples to caress, however, is absurd. There can be no finer result from the work of this church than its younger members should ripen their friendship under the proper chaperones and marry. So basically, they need to be chaperoned when they're out, and then they have to marry. Nothing in between. But when the courtship or companionship loses its dignity and becomes a public demonstration, it ceases to make for home building, which is what the church desires. So basically, be a good little boy and girl, marry, have a bunch of kids, bring them to church, and we can make the church grow. That's what this guy wants. But spooning parlors. There's people that say there's an epidemic of loneliness in today's world. I don't know. I'm happily married to my wife. So I'm not lonely anymore. I'm not alone. But if we did this and we made it so that we understood that if you went past a certain line, you couldn't do that. But if we just said, and if it's consenting adults, it doesn't matter. But spooning parlors, go in there, spoon, caress, just have some time to yourself, no devices, just you and someone else, consenting adults, go in there, have some time where you caress, have some intimate time. This might actually work for today's world to get people away. You take away your devices, take away everything else, private rooms. This actually might work for today's world. It's an interesting idea. Maybe someone can come up with it. It happened 100 years ago. Maybe it'll happen again. Who knows? So I'm debating here. I got 3 more stories I could put into here. I got Death When It Still Explodes, Anti-Cigarette Week, and then what happened 25 years ago. So this is 1922, so 22 years ago would be 1900, so 1897. We got 1897 in Topeka. We have Anti-Cigarette Week, or someone trying to make alcohol and dies. So, you know what? We're going to do 2 of these. We're not going to do the Anti-Cigarette Week because it'd be kind of hypocritical with me with a cigar in my mouth. So we're going to do Death When It Still Explodes. That's what we're going to do. Moonshine Quarrel, Upsets Coals, Explosion, and Fire. A lot of fire stories this week. This is from Illinois. So again, it's in the Topeka paper. It's fair game. Okay? The explosion of a still in a shed kindled a fire in which Robert Walton was burned to death. Walter Walton. I don't know if he was in relation to Sam Walton, the Walmart guy. Different state. But Arkansas is just below Kansas, so maybe. But he's burned to death. Ooh, burned to death. That's not good. James Campbell perhaps fatally scorched, and all trace of the third man wiped out. Police said the man upset the coils in an explosion. So they were arguing. They upset the coils. It caught fire because it's a still. You need the fire to create the mash. They upset the coils. It blew up and there were some deaths. Now, I'm a history buff, so we're going to do 25 years ago in Topeka. So this is from 1922. So 25 years ago would be 1897. So wild geese seen high in the heavens over Atchison, apparently in great distress. They were seen by numerous citizens who, without exception, arrived at the conclusions that they had come in contact with a great airship since Topeka Saturday and had been knocked off their bearings. 5 wild geese. So, what, did they run into like a plane or a zeppelin? It doesn't say. Often continuing their gyrations until dark, They alighted when it was discovered that their plumage had been singed by electrical heat. Airships will be the death. So it was an airship would be a Zeppelin. So I don't know if they came near an airship and it caught their limbs on. It caught some of their feathers on fire and they couldn't fly as well. I don't know. That's an interesting story. So an airship is like a Zeppelin. You see blimps? That's an airship. What they mean by airship, they mean blimps. So airships, Zeppelins, most famous one would be Hindenburg, which kind of ended the Zeppelin experiment. I wish it would sort of come back. I would love to be on a Zeppelin. You know, I like cruises. That's how I travel. That's on the water. That'd be kind of cool. You could fly lower level, like maybe 5,000-6,000 feet, come down, dock someplace, come down, be in the city, go back. It'd basically be an air cruise. You could build these things huge, put pools, put everything, make it VIP, have restaurants in the air, make them a huge airship. It'd be kind of cool, actually. Nice and slow across the country. You can fly across the Atlantic, land in London. Now, again, that was New Jersey, but the Empire State Building in New York City, that big tower, the big thing on top, that was supposed to be a Zeppelin docking station. That's what it was built there for. Zeppelins would dock, they would come down at the top of the Empire State Building. That's why if you see the Empire State Building, there's like, on the very, very top, there's that balcony right there, a balcony or that area walkway, because you're going to come down through and into the building when you dock. So the county commissioners, next thing in history, are trying to Kansas Avenue Bridge, but trying to find out if the old Kansas Avenue Bridge belongs to the county or the city. So we have this old-fashioned dispute that happens in a lot of places. This bridge, it was built, maybe it was built before the city got as big as it was. Maybe the county took over some property from the city, we don't know. So this particular bridge, where's it at now? But is that who owns it? Like, let's take now, so interstate, so in today's world, let's equate this. So we have interstates, even though the interstates, we have an interstate highway system that goes throughout the country. Even though that part of that interstate might be in the state of Florida, in the state of Kansas, it comes from the interstate. The interstate system funds it. So there's money, the interstate money system, which is the federal government, funds that. If it's a state road, it is funded by the state. And if it's a county, but sometimes state roads and county roads merge and become the same thing. So you have disputes. Who does the maintenance? Who does it belong to? Is it a confluence of money? Who does it? Is it state crews? Is it county crews? That's what we're talking about here. It's 25 years ago today, so I don't know what the solution was. It was just done the next year. So we have an assistant at the Santa Fe dispensary. Not marijuana dispensary. This is a pharmacy dispensary where they're doing drugs, probably a lot different drugs than we have today. This is 1925. This is before the FDA. It might be morphine, codeine, who knows, some snake oil that doesn't do anything but people think it does. Someone resigned. Doesn't say why they resigned, it just says they resigned. So this is what I love about doing things like this. So it tells me here, Miss Myrtle Seymour, who is a teacher in a school, will take her spring vacation with relatives to Chicago. That is something that doesn't go in the paper today. That story is not even in a paper. It's barely on social media today. It is definitely not in the paper. And again, the last one on this is Mrs. H.C. Mitter returned yesterday from a visit to her relatives in Kansas City. So again, in the paper, they returned from Kansas. Now, remember, this is from 1897. People going on trips back then is a bigger deal, and coming back because there weren't the road system wasn't as robust as it is today, and the car system isn't robust. So they still might be taking not wagon trains, but they might be taking like Wells Fargo stagecoaches. They still might be taking stagecoaches at this point, which is kind of cool. I would love to see that. So that's what I have for you today. Remember, like, Subscribe. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Also, hit the little bell there. And make sure you hit all notifications so you get every single one of these things. And we can do this every week. So until next time, make sure you listen to my wife's channels there, Moondog Tarot and the Divine 222, and make sure your headlines are served neat, because this is bourbon over headlines. And everybody, let's be neat out there.